So I really want to start by this. I just want, the full picture of your experience in the trucking industry. Again, not trying to age you, but I know you have a long history here in the trucking industry. How'd you get started? What's your story?
I'm 57 for all those people who right now they're trying to do the math based on what you said and go, okay, so when's you start? So just so everybody can just stop adding and listen, this is what I want you to do. So yeah, I'm, it's funny because and this is why I work with a lot of youth and stuff up here, because I'm the high school dropout. I got into trucking at the age of 17. And I don't know if you know that I'm a cartoonist as well. I wanted to draw. So I have 3 Ds, not all good. I like to draw, I like to drive, and I like to drink. And the drinking doesn't usually go all the way in there, but it's kind of later in life. But I started drawing when I was 10, and nobody told you, here, you can go to art school. Nobody said that. My parents were accountants. So they said, go get a real job. And a real job for me was humping furniture. So I started in the moving industry, a bed bugger, as they're called. And we would just unload the trucks and load the trucks and help people move. I was with Atlas Van Lines at the time. And I noticed that the driver of the straight truck was getting paid a little more than me and carrying a little less. And he was also the boss. And I said, okay, maybe I should become the driver. So I got my straight truck license for a couple of years, and then went right into owning a truck right at this great age of 21 in 1981. So, and then did that for about 5 to 7 years. I was in the moving industry, and then I switched to the freight side of the industry, and worked for good companies, both private and for hire. Basically running all across North America, got really comfortable in the hazmat. So most of my career has been hauling hazardous chemicals. And I stopped driving professionally 14 years ago after being the fleet supervisor for a few years. Decided I was going to go out on my own, not sure what I was going to do. I was actually going to start an art business. So that's always really good when you tell people, yeah, I'm going to get rid of a 6-figure income to go start an art business. They're all really cheering for you, but it works out. And, I had no idea with podcasts. I didn't know I would be doing this. And here we are 14 years later, and we're into everything to do with media and still loving the industry. I'm like a kid in a candy store. I still love to see a chromed out Peterbilt or something. And it's just gets me going for sure.
So you owned your first truck in 1981?
Yes, it's a cab over, an old Ford cab over. If you've ever seen that movie Blue Mule, that's the Ford cab over I had. The person that taught me to drive was a friend of mine who we worked together at the same moving company. His dad was a trucker, and he said, why don't we thought, okay, 2 of us that are experienced drivers. And when I say experienced drivers, I had a couple years of moving experience. I certainly wasn't, tractor trailer experience at that time, but I had a couple years. He was very experienced. He'd been doing it for about 5 years. We said, why don't we go into partnership and buy a truck? And we got on with Atlas. So we bought an old truck for $10,000. His dad lent us some money, and we went to, we started running to Florida and stuff like that. Well, what we didn't figure out is that 2 young guys, and I'm talking like, I'm 21 and he's like 23, in Fort Lauderdale in the middle of January from Canada, is not the most efficient or cost-effective way to build a business. We spent more drinking and partying and doing all those things. And after a couple, we lasted about a year and a half, I think, and a year and a half to 2 years. And we weren't really making any money. We didn't do it correctly the way we should have. And so I split off that. He sold out my part and paid me whatever little bit I was owed there. And he went on his own. I think he got out of the truck shortly after that. He met a nurse and moved to Arizona or something like that. I haven't seen him in all this time, but I would love to. But he's the one who taught me to drive. His name is Andre. And just he taught me the old school way. This is before schools. He taught me the old school way of doing things. And I still love the industry. But I had a really successful career. A lot of it's just about hard work and trying to be as professional as you can.
So were you an owner operator for the duration of your career behind a wheel, or what did that look like?
No, I was just a driver. I got out of that owner operator space. Like I said, I went to the freight side. And when you go to the freight side, it's almost like starting a new career again. I didn't know any of the companies. I was working local, just taking trailers, delivering around Toronto. And I kept working for a good company. So I never felt that urge to become an owner operator. I've always driven big trucks, and I've always worked for family-owned style companies, so they always treated you really good. I did try to get into it again. My father-in-law at the time had bought a second truck, and I was supposed to operate that. And I said, if I like it, I was going to buy it. Well, unfortunately, it was on with a company that didn't see eye to eye. I think I got home a month after I went out. And for Canadian drivers, that's a long time. I know in the US, they kind of do that regularly. But for me, I had just had a kid at the time. To be gone a month and not home was not working. That happened for about 6 months. And I said, this is not going to work out. So I went back to my old carrier. And from there, I got into private companies and didn't really feel that need to go out on my own again. But I know I would do it differently this time for sure. I've been self-employed for 14 years, so I have a better grasp on it now.